Welcome in, welcome in. Max Marquee matchup, Week 7 edition. You know it had to happen at some point. I got my guy Sosa here with me as we are previewing the Chiefs versus the 49ers Super Bowl rematch, of course, from the Las Vegas Super Bowl. Got the fireworks going. Sosa, how are you doing today, my guy?
Feeling amazing, man. Ready for some football. Ready to rewatch my misery. Remember the day I met you and how that worked out. I don't want to say it was the worst day of my life, but I did meet you that day.
It was a great time. It was a great time. Extremely stressful.
Awesome. It was a great time. Like, a blast for the most part.
Standing up in the Top Golf and being like, oh God, this is the most stressful thing we've ever gone through. Oh, that was it's fun day. Obviously, bid you out there in Vegas, but now we have the rematch. 6 weeks into the NFL season, Chiefs coming off a bye week, 49ers coming off an extended bye week, having beat the Seattle Seahawks on Thursday Night Football last week as well. Handle them as the Niners always tend to do from that standpoint as well. We're going to get into the game specifically from a matchup standpoint, but I did want to start from this aspect of these two quarterbacks and some of the evolution that they've had coming off of where they were last year in the Super Bowl. Of course, Patrick Mahomes is, Patrick Mahomes, and that's a whole different conversation. But Brock Purdy on your end, he's a guy that we've talked about a lot, and I think that there was nothing wrong with the early career criticisms that both you and I had of there was limitations to his game. It was clear that, there were things that just weren't available to him that he had to continue to learn. There were certain handcuffs put on him to make sure that he didn't put you guys in harm's way from that standpoint. But I think that he has evolved and become a better player, and you certainly agree from that standpoint. So talk to me about Brock Purdy, specifically in the context of this season and his evolution, and how he's had to kind of improve his game, take it to a different level due to some of the injuries that you guys have had on offense and be able to add things to his game from that standpoint.
What did Kendrick Lamar say? He said he's gonna make it look sexy, right? He's gonna make it look sexy. I'm gonna make it look sexy. I think that's part of what with Brock. I think Brock is he's not the sexiest man alive. He's the sneakiest athlete alive. If you know, you know. Listen, I've been extremely critical of every quarterback the 49ers have had under Kyle Shanahan because I know the level of genius that he applies to what he brings to the table as far as a play caller, as far as understanding how to get matchups for skill players in space, all that, which is the number one reason why I didn't want to give Brock Purdy a lot of credit. But like you mentioned, when you're ravaged by injuries and you have to ask somebody to play above the level or bring their level up to make the others better, and he's shown that, you got to just tip your hat. This season, he's been magical, for lack of a better term, evading rushes, getting to make plays down the field, running the ball at times. He's been outstanding. I was very critical. I said, he's got to win me a Super Bowl to get paid. I'm like 80-20 on that now. But no, honestly, in all reality, I do believe he should get paid. He deserves his money. When you take Christian McCaffrey away from any offense, it's going to be a big deal. It's just not magnified because the offense has still been functional because of him, one. And obviously, Jordan Mason in the scheme is still extremely solid. Only difference is that you see the lack of a Christian McCaffrey in the offense once you get to the red zone. And that's been the biggest issue with the team is because, yes, Jordan Mason has put up very good numbers between the 20s, and he's looked amazing, and his yards look great, and he's second in the league to rushing to Derrick Henry, who's clearly lost a step. But, the offense still is still extremely functional. So that's why we continuously give him give the red zone issues a pass. And then when you put up 30 points against a divisional opponent and finally get the bitter taste out of your mouth from losing to two of them, it feels a little bit better. But in regards to Brock, he's been great. He'd be in the MVP discussion. Lamar is playing amazing. Patrick Mahomes is winning with your cousins at receiver. And CJ Stroud is overcoming some of the most terrible play calling in football. So, the three names I just mentioned, for Brock to even be mentioned in my mind amongst those should tell you how my disposition on him at this particular juncture, given it's been 6 weeks through the season without the best player on offense and a multitude of injuries throughout those 6 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, that's just the reality of it with Brock Purdy. I think that if you don't recognize him as a good quarterback in this league, then you're kind of dealing with outdated narratives in that sense. He's been able to create some plays with his legs on a more consistent basis than we saw in the past. He's been accurate on a consistent basis as well. He is, being able to access that deep third of the field as well as the intermediates on the, absolutely with no disregard at all. And that's obviously with Brady. Now you getting off to maybe a slower start as well. I think George Kittle has been incredibly pivotal for you guys starting to start the year. And we'll talk a little bit more about that matchup from that aspect. Deebo Samuel coming back, being healthy has helped out a lot. Obviously, we've seen that production and kind of early contributions from Jawan Jennings as well. So you guys have a lot of options, and Brock Purdy to this point has done a very good job at using all of them and continue to get better as a quarterback each and every year. And that's no small thing from that standpoint. We're gonna.
I mean, you said one thing. We could talk about Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he's Michael Jordan, man.
So we will get into Patrick Mahomes, of course. So the record, spectacular. I know. The record is what the record is. From a individual play standpoint, there have been obviously injury issues. Us not having Hollywood Brown to start the year. Us obviously losing Rashee Rice later on versus the Chargers throughout that, and that was just a difficult thing to watch. Patrick Mahomes as well, from a play-in, play-out standpoint, has still maintained a high level as far as operating the quarterback position. The issue has been some of those disaster plays in which the accuracy either goes awry, maybe the footwork is a little bit not on time exactly what he needed to, or the reality situation is the wide receiver talent isn't up to the standard that it has to be to match where he's putting the ball on a consistent basis. So there are some points in which I look at what Patrick Mahomes has done at this point in the season and say, for NFL standards, he's been what is, a middle of the pack quarterback, probably a little bit better if you really watch the tape compared to what the numbers would suggest from that standpoint. But the question is, where can we get back to what Patrick Mahomes individually is always expected to do? And the reality situation is that question may just simply be, you got to wait till the playoffs. It was kind of that way last year. It was all the struggles that we had on offense, and Mahomes kind of just navigated us through it, got enough for us to win the division, got enough for us to be in position to go on the road and win those games in Buffalo and Baltimore and be able to go to the Super Bowl. And then you saw when the playoffs hit, he took his name back to that Hall of Fame level from that aspect. So obviously, there's a lot of conversation about our wide receivers, trading for our wide receivers and things of that nature. And we'll get into why specifically I do still feel that we need to. At this point, Patrick Mahomes coming off the bye week, the only thing I can ask from him is to trust the offensive line a little bit more and then also try and see if he can get some of those explosive plays as Xavier Worthy. But to this point, he's doing what is necessary for us to win games. And as a Chiefs fan, and that could trust him to take his game back to the Hall of Fame level when it comes to playoff time, I'm comfortable in the place that I'm at.
See, when you say Hall of Fame level, are you talking about Tom Brady putting up 185 yards in an NFC playoff game and winning by a field goal? Because like that, you see how people say that you say Hall of Fame level, and it's like, well, wait a second, like what do you mean by that? That's just my thought. It's like it doesn't. There is no like I can't look at it like that. I'm just like, listen, man, does he do enough to win the game? And I think that this is the thing too. Patrick Mahomes is not only the best quarterback in football, he's the best game manager. Mm-hmm. But it's always, he didn't do this or he didn't do that. It didn't look sexy. But the dude, now he understands, listen, if I don't give the ball to the other team, if I sustain drives, don't put my defense with their back against the wall, they're going to give me opportunities to get the ball back. As long as I get points when I get to the red zone, those are game managing situations. He knows how to manage a football game. And then he understands that when my team needs a play, I can pull one out of my ass. So
I think it's to the point where you kind of have to for people to understand what you're talking about as far as game age. It's almost like you have to invent a different way of describing it, of saying game controlling, because I think that your comparison as far as you talk about where Michael Jordan was, there was a point in time in his later career where every single situation that the game presented to him, he had an answer for, and he knew what exactly to do and when to do. He knew when he needed to get his teammates involved. He knew when he needed to take over. He knew when he just needed to have a defensive impact that night, et cetera, et cetera. So that is where Patrick Mahomes is at as far as a game controlling aspect. And I think there's other quarterbacks in the league. Lamar Jackson, I think, has done this beautifully to this point in the season, certainly. CJ Stroud as well, to where they understand what is asked of them in what specific situations and is doing it specifically to win the game. First and foremost, not for stats, not for anything else. I need to be able to put my team in the best position to win.
Absolutely. And, we going to see. We're going to see what it look like. We about to see what happens on Sunday. Obviously, the bye situation. Everybody talks about the bye. I know everyone's going to bring it up at some point. Like, yes, Andy Reid's been incredible off a bye. I live in Philadelphia. I'm very aware. I was there.
Of course. And look, this is an interesting matchup. Obviously, Super Bowl rematch. Two very good teams. I know that people look at the record and be like, well, the 49ers struggle a bit. They're still a very good team. Two, unfortunate losses notwithstanding from that standpoint. And obviously, you guys are coming off of that mini bye week, Thursday Night Football. We're coming off of the bye week. So well rested, have some time to extra game plan from this aspect. And of course, these are two teams that are extremely familiar with each other. So I do want to start as far as the Chiefs offense versus 49ers defense. Talking about from your standpoint, this is a defense that some people have had some questions about kind of throughout, maybe not getting the great pass rush contributions outside of Nick Bosa to this point. Floyd has been good, I think, but necessarily hasn't had that interior pass rush to match as well, if you can come to expect from the 49ers. Fred Warner, excellent, like Hall of Fame level play that we always come to expect from Fred Warner. Linebackers outside of Fred Warner, obviously with Dre Greenlaw being out, some issues and some holes to be filled in from that aspect. Safeties in and out lineup. Hufanga is somebody that is going to end up missing this game, and maybe a little bit uneven play from the corners, though. I will say I was really impressed on tape versus watching Renardo Green, your rookie at FSU, who I liked during the draft process. So talk to me about this defensive unit, what you expect to see from them versus the Chiefs offense, and anything you want to take advantage of in that standpoint.
Bosa's going to have to play well. He's going to have to not get fooled by read options every time by Patrick Mahomes, which has become a trend at this point when they play. Also, like you said, Renardo Green, very impressed by his play. Obviously, we've had some injuries in the back end. I like Hufanga. Hufanga has yet to show me he can run like he could prior to the knee injury. He doesn't look like the same athlete yet. And sometimes that just takes time, right? It just takes some time. Can you hear that in my background?
No, you good.
Okay. Like I said, that just takes time, right? For him to just get back in the swing of playing football, get in football shape, whatever it is, or maybe he just can't run no more. We'll find out, right? Next episode of Dragon Ball Z will be there. We look at the rest of the defense. You mentioned Fred. Obviously, the loss of Javon Hargrave is huge, right? Like that is enormous. I think people have just bypassed it. Like, this guy should know. He was an All-Pro before he pulled up to San Francisco. We signed him on the first day of free agency for a reason 2 years ago.
For a reason.
Because he was supposed to be a perfect complement to Bosa. That's why we let go of Eric Armstead. But people are just glazing over the fact, like, they're just not. Well, I mean, missing him is huge. That is a ginormous piece to your rotation, and he's a steadying force throughout the game. You don't have to take him off the field for half the snaps. He doesn't have to just play situational pass rush. He can play on every fucking play. Not having him available has hurt. Also, Dre Greenlaw not being available shows. It shows. The other linebackers can't do nothing the way he can. They can't play in coverage. They can't smack people the way he can. It's just not the same. So there have been struggles. I have been extremely disappointed because, like I said from the beginning, I never thought Wilkes should have been fired. I feel like they wanted to blame someone for Kyle Shanahan making the worst decision in the history of the Super Bowl, which was taking the ball first in overtime. And you people who are stupid or have no brain are the only people that are absolving him of that war crime that he committed when they played in February. Okay, I say I have to mention it because it has to be therapeutic. We're playing each other, so it's like I gotta.
We're exercising demons. Yes, yeah, absolutely.
This is major. This is another thing with Steve Wilkes. Steve Wilkes has a secondary background. He's the first defensive coordinator that we had that had a full secondary background as a coach. Secondary played really fucking good for the most part of the season. Defenses get tired in the fourth quarter and overtime. That's why you should be able to lean on your defense and your genius fucking play caller. couldn't do that. They got hung out to dry.
Yep.
So, that's what it is. Injuries mixed with the unavailability of certain players.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the defensive backs just being soft, scared to tackle, moving like bitches. With that being said, we play in the NFC. I'll see you in February.
Absolutely. So obviously, and I think you laid it out particularly well, specifically about that Steve Wilkes, because I didn't think he was to blame, and you talked about obviously the overtime decision, and from that standpoint, being able to make up for it means you got to lean more on your secondary when you are missing now a Devon Hargrave, and obviously your linebacker situation has been in flux, and that means Nick Bosa has to be that guy that has a Trey Hendrickson type of game versus us to wreck the offensive game plan in that standpoint. As far as our specific matchup is concerned, I do feel comfortable with our ability to move the football. Niners have been a middle of the pack team versus the run. We've obviously been pretty good as far as rushing success rate is concerned, staying on schedule, being able to be efficient in between the 20s, and specifically because of the space that Xavier Worthy creates, the space in which Juju and Kelsey underneath can take advantage of versus zone, and obviously our run game. Those elements allow us to generally move the ball well as long as we avoid those negative plays, penalties, and obviously turnovers. But our struggles have come in the red zone. We've been a bottom 5 red zone TD percentage team. And this is where specifically I think you show up with the inability to have wide receivers win one-on-one matchups as well. And this is indicative of what our team has been able to do from the 20s is, hey, we're spreading things out. We're creating space vertically. We can get a tight end over the middle of the field to get us a chunk gain. But when you actually are in close within the 10-yard line, this is where the struggles become. Nobody comes open. Travis Kelce is hung up versus Jonathan Abram underneath. And ultimately, Patrick Mahomes has to bail from a clean pocket to be able to have any shot at trying to get the ball open. But you can see 15 is just hanging on 87 here, watching underneath, and Travis doesn't know and cover. So then he just starts scrambling, getting scramble mode. And scramble mode is great. We've seen Patrick Mahomes make a lot of plays out of scramble mode, but ultimately speaking, that's not going to work. And then you try Andy Reid's play calling and say, all right, let's roll it out and see if we can get somebody open. Well, if nobody comes open on flood contests because they're just playing zone and packing things in, you're not going to have many options. So at that standpoint, you have to be able not only to continue to run the ball when you get in close, but you also need wide receivers to win one-on-one matchups. We saw the interception that came off of Juju's shoulder pads down there in close when we were hopefully going to score a touchdown. Those are things you have to secure. And if you don't, then you could be in trouble. Niners have been kind of middle of the pack as far as red zone defense is concerned. This is the area of improvement going forward throughout the entirety of the season. I want to see change. And this, obviously this is a matchup, hopefully, that we can take advantage of it and be more efficient in the red zone. Go ahead.
I mean, again, no Hollywood, no Rice. You want to throw a bunch of passes within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage one night, and again, man, it's going to take a complete team effort to beat this team. Both sides of the ball got to perform well. And yeah, your defense has played really well too. Like you people want it to be where, they fall off because of this guy leaving and whatever. And also, the people in Tennessee waited till L'Jarius Sneed had one game to start saying he sucks. I just want people to really pay attention to that. Like, really, please pay attention to that. They were waiting.
What game? That's all it took. It was a bad game for L'Jarius.
It was terrible.
It was a bad game.
Tape against he looked pretty good.
Yeah, he has not been horrible the entirety of the season. That's just not true. And again, like you said, he had no issues versus Tyreek and Jalen Waddle early in the season too. So yeah, the Titans fans are upset that what we knew was going to come to the fruition. Yeah, no, of course.
He was a dog. He was a dog in the Super Bowl. He was a fucking dog in the Super Bowl, bro.
Amazing in the Super Bowl.
I mean, because it's the PTSD moment. Like, I'm remembering this stuff like as we go along. That's what's really going on here, man. That's what's really happening. I'm just like, yeah, he fucking killed us.
The things that stick out to you. But no, and of course, L'Jarius Sneed moving on to Tennessee, we did trade him. We will thank them for that early draft pick that we'll get back from because they suck and Will Levis sucks. As we expected. But specifically getting back to this matchup, it's a key piece. Not having L'Jarius Sneed to match up with this wide receiver core. Now, we've fortunately gotten really good play out of Jalen Watson. Trey McDuffie has continued his all-pro level of play from last year as well. But being able to put really either one of those guys on Brandon Ayuk, but more so L'Jarius Need to make it difficult for Brandon as much as you can for how talented Brandon is. And then be able to have Trent on Debo on a consistent basis, give him man-to-man issues, and then obviously allow you to put extra attention on the kills and CMCs coming out of the backfield. That was a formula that worked for us in the Super Bowl. This year, it's a little different. Jalen Watson, as much as he's played extremely well, nowhere near where L'Jarius Need was last year. And this is still a team that has all of those weapons minus CMC. But specifically for me, it's about George Kittle. And the reason why it's about George Kittle is that's been the guy that's been as consistently elite for your offense on that basis, is being able to target him. And specifically on third downs, I think you've seen versus Brock Purdy has been able to attack him. And it's really one-on-one matchups that George Kittle has continued to win, specifically because of what Kyle Shanahan can open up for them to attack. And I wanted to bring up specifically what the third downs look like versus the Vikings, because you're going to see a lot of sim pressures. You're going to see a lot of blitzes. You're going to see a lot of different coverages, as we know Brian Flores comes at quarterbacks with. And I thought Brock Purdy actually did a pretty good job at handling them. And a lot of it was because he was going to 85 on money downs from that standpoint. And even in the sim pressure, a little chip and be able to get out. We know George Kittle has the ability to create a lot of yards after the catch, and that gives you a chance to go for it on a 4th and 2, because simply just a quick chip and leak out, he can make play. Go ahead.
I didn't win in fantasy, by the way.
Yeah, look, you don't even have to say just a fantasy.
Make sure I mentioned that.
Not even just fantasy, man. He's been the best tight end in the league this year. It's just point blank, period. And so even free runners, he's been able to get the ball out to George Kittle when it matters most. I think this last one will be the third down that was super key. And Vikings playing a little bit matchup zone, but also showing the sim pressure and just be able to go ahead and go out to him in the middle of the field. So those are the things that Brock Purdy has been able to do. And that's kind of the biggest weakness, I think, still with our defense. Having a lot of times in which linebackers or safeties are matched up against tight ends. We saw Kyle Pitts have a really long pass versus us. Juwan Jennings had a solid day versus us on Monday Night Football as well. We have to do a better job of guarding tight ends. We've done an excellent job as far as early down success rate is concerned. We know you guys want to establish the run first and foremost. Generally speaking, we know Brandon Ayuk is going to be a tough cover, but our cornerbacks have played well. For me, that's the biggest issue that we face. George Kittle, bashed up on the safeties. We have to do a better job in that matchup. And if we don't, then Brock Purdy will happily take advantage of it. But as far as what you're watching for this 49ers offense versus our Chiefs defense, where's the start for you? In the trenches, specific matchup outside, Brock Purdy's play, where you want to go with it?
I think the zone run game is going to play a part in Sunday's matchup. I think we're going to try to run the ball a little bit. Obviously, it's predicated on how Spags decides to bring pressure and send extra guys, which is part of what he always does. And obviously defending Chris Jones. I mean, It starts with him first and foremost. In the Super Bowl, he was extremely effective. We remember what happened when, Brock had some guys open and he said none of that mattered. So I think it starts with him. And it starts with making sure that he doesn't wreck the game. Then on the other side, I think Ayuk will play very well. I think he remembers the Super Bowl. I think there's been a lot of chirping about the Super Bowl. I think he's heard a lot about the Super Bowl. I know I have. And his performance in the Super Bowl. And I think that I'm not big on like the moral victory thing, but or even looking at this game as if we do win, like it like does anything major. All it is one win in the regular season. It does nothing. It doesn't make us the favorite to win the Super Bowl. It doesn't change people's perception of us, because at the end of the day, it's a 4 p.m. game in October.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm expecting I think both offenses will be functional. I like the over in the game as far as like a bet. I think both teams should be able to move the ball relatively well against each other. I think that Shanahan has to have some level of taking this personal and coming out here and having his offense perform at a high level. And I think it's more than possible. Again, this Kansas City defense has been great. For me to say, we're just going to move it up and down the field. I think we can. There's no defense that I've seen that's not adjustable based on this personnel that we have to make plays and to beat them. So I think Obviously, Debo's an important piece to what we have going on. He has to be effective in his role. You mentioned Kittle. Tight ends have also murdered you guys all season. That's no tight ends have performed very well against your defense. So obviously, you mentioned Kittle. That's why I kind of like didn't say much. What's understood doesn't need to be explained. We know that Kittle should be a target and he should be able to get open. And if he doesn't get the ball, it's because he's getting open. He's getting someone else open. So that should go hand in hand there. And yeah, again, it starts with protecting the quarterback. I wish I could have a sexy answer for you. Like, I think Ayuk's going to go for 100, or Devo's going to have 50 yards rushing and 50 yards receiving and go for 3 touchdowns. Let's block the big dude up front, and everything should work out pretty well. Because based on my experience, that's where it starts. You block that guy, or you block 95, and things should work out relatively okay for you if you don't take stupid, unmitigated risks. So that's the offense.
No doubt about it. And look, we were talking before we started recording, obviously, about Aiden Hutchinson and his impact. 95, Chris Jones, I think, has been a guy that, because what Aiden Hutchinson was doing, is now back in the Defensive Player of the Year race, because he has had that outsized impact on us. He is lapping the field as far as interior defense alignment with pressure's ability to win one-on-one matchups. And that means that you have to have 4 hands on him. And that's where it's been really key that we've had Tershawn Ward. Now, in this specific game up front, we're not going to have Mike Dana. Felix Anduke-Uzomah is going to get one of his, I guess to say, first 5 starts in the National Football League once again. Him, George Karlaftis. George Karlaftis hasn't played as well as he did last year, certainly to finish the year last year. If one of those 2 guys could show up alongside what Tershawn Ward has done, then we can impact Brock Purdy from an upfront standpoint and be able to give the requisite attention that the back end is going to need because of your stars, receiving wise, come to the table with. If not, if you got to send extra pressure, there are going to be times in which Brock Purdy is going to gas you, as he has, defenses the entirety of the season. But I agree with you. I think that there is going to be some points scored as far as this game is concerned, which, wrapping up the matchup portion of it, we can now get to best bets, which is always a fun portion of the segment. For those who don't know, I am speaking with the betting expert on Twitter, Sosa Picks himself. So I'll go ahead and start out with the 2 that I specifically are looking for, and I feel like are good bets. Obviously, you talked about tight ends murdering us. George Kittle over 51.5 receiving yards. That's free money as far as I'm concerned. I think he gets 51.5 pretty easily from that aspect. Xavier Worthy over 19.5 longest reception. Niners kind of coverage scheme so far has been sometimes, I'd say, over 50% single high, where there's cover 1, cover 3, and we've been able to, attack that pretty well in the past. Done a little bit of quarters, but not as much cover 2. We'll see if that changes, but I do think that there'll be an opportunity to get Xavier deep. And I think specifically after our run game is established, coming off the bye week, we'll have something built in to get an explosive play to Xavier Worthy as well and make that worthwhile. Sosa, what do you have for best bets in this specific game?
All right, we're going with the Niners to win the game. Minus 120, I like the money line. I know there are 2 major trends going against me. It's Andy Reid off a bye and Patrick Mahomes as an underdog. Patrick Mahomes as an underdog is the best quarterback in the history of football when it comes to winning and playing against the spread. He's either going to cover the spread or win the game outright. He is Patrick Mahomes. Betting against Patrick Mahomes is usually a very stupid idea. I'm gonna mirror this game very much to the Baltimore Ravens versus the Bills game. I think it means more to us. I think this game means more to the 49ers than it means to the Chiefs. And that's why I'm backing my team, not because I'm a fan. And if you notice, I always try to keep it very, very neutral when it comes to this sort of stuff, simply because I am in the betting space. And the last thing I want people to think is, oh man, he's picking them because he's a fan, because that would make me a dickhead. Okay, that's not intelligent. It wasn't minus 120. You're probably going to get a better price at a different book. I think MGM and Caesars are going to get a better number, like minus 120. The minus 1.5, I'm betting as well. Again, I think the game means more to the 49ers. I think that coming off a bye, I know everyone's expecting Andy Reid to have something new. I seen Juju on the injury report. I mean, if you want to line up 3 tight ends on the field against us, and I'm for that. You know what I'm saying? I'm for that sort of football. I'm for it. And I think our team would actually prefer y'all do that. Based on the way to beat us, I think that we can put Patrick into more advantageous situations for our defense based on the personnel you have on the outside. I know he's amazing, but at some point, those receivers have to struggle, right? And I know you look at the tape and you're like, man, like our quarterbacks have just made some mistakes against us, right? But we still got Fred Warner in the middle, and I don't know how sustainable that whole let's just keep everything underneath and nickel and dime. I don't know how long that's sustainable. I mean, even if you do have the best quarterback on the planet. So, I think that, again, I believe it means more to us. The two other props are I'm going with Debo over 12.5 rushing yards. I think his versatility out of the backfield is a weapon, especially for over pursuing defenses. I also think he's another player. He heard it all offseason. I mean, this game also is very reminiscent to the Eagles game of last year. I'm not saying we're going to beat y'all or nothing like that, but you understand what I'm saying? It just means more, in my opinion. Debo, you heard about all season. Well, if Brock played in Philly, you think you would have won? What the fuck you think? Yes, we think we would have won the game. And then we went into Philly and won a game. So that's what I'm looking at it as. I'm not from that standpoint, or just narratives or just however people want to, and at some point, you got to get the monkey off your back, man. This guy just can't keep whooping your ass. You can't keep getting robbed by the same Black Santa Claus every other day. Right?
You're not lying.
At some point you got to find him and whoop his ass. He can't be doing the Dion down the block after robbing you every 3 minutes. It's not okay. So
no, I'm not either. I'm not mad at you for that. I mean, that's kind of what it has been. And obviously, like you said, taking it personal, hearing it all off season. Debo, Brock Purdy, in general, what can this defense show up and do to stop them? You could also say just pure record wise, 3-3, still fighting tooth and nail. Just didn't see seeding from that aspect. 5-0 coming off of bye week. That wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world. I do think that we will be ready to play. But certainly, as far as you guys proving a certain thing, I would not be surprised as well. We faced the same thing versus Buffalo in the 2020 season. After we had been able to kind of handle them from that aspect, and we're like, nah, we can't go out like that. So all things said, those are your best bets as far as that is concerned. Debo over 12.5 rushing yards and the 49ers to win for Sosa. Me, Kittle over 51.5 and longest reception, Xavier Worthy over 19.5. Only thing left is game picks. I will go ahead on first because I have to say, I have to be honest with you guys, I agree with Sosa. I do think that the Niners end up winning this game. I think that this is a game in which you see those limitations from the wide receiver aspect, and hopefully Spurs to be able to get a job done or a deal done before the deadline passes. I think there is a certain level of this offense that is capped without that type of wide receiver talent. And right now, it just doesn't exist in Kansas City right now. So I think the Niners will be able to be aggressive, be able to stop some of the underneath stuff. I think we'll be able to move the ball and put points up, but ultimately we won't find the red zone success we need to put enough points up as the Niners offense is able to use kind of those outside weapons accordingly. Until I see better edge rush play, I can't say that our defensive line is going to dominate the Niners offensive line to the point to where that you can mitigate what that superstar talent receiving wise is concerned. So I've got the Niners, I believe at it 27-24. I think that you guys go ahead and get a win at home coming off your mini bye week and versus us in our bye week. X factor on our end, like I said, I think George Karlaftis just has to show up and have a game if he can, and Tershawn Warren does what he continues to do. We know what 9-5 brings to the table. Then we can affect Brock Purdy enough. If that doesn't happen, then it's going to be incredibly difficult as well to stop what you guys have in the back end, specifically George Kittle, of course, in a tight end standpoint. So go ahead, give us your game pick, and then obviously the X factor. Obviously, you have 49ers winning to start out.
I like us to win. I'm going to go 28-20. 28-20. That's the sweet spot. You guys score more than 27 points to beat Patrick Mahomes. That we know the rules, right? You can't be stupid. You got to know the rules.
No.
There are rules to this. X Factor, I'm going to go on your side. I think X Factor, Xavier Worthy. Being able to, if you don't get hands on him, it can get messy. But also it's a trust thing that takes time. People don't realize Patrick Mahomes won't just not throwing the ball to certain guys because he didn't like them. He just didn't trust that they might catch the ball. He would just I'm not gonna do it, you know. So he's learning that he's getting that rapport. I think off of bye, you're going to see Andy try to cook some things up. That's why, like I said, the pass rush is so important for y'all. I think X-Man, Xavier Worthy, X Factor for y'all. And on our side, I'm going to go with Ayuk. I think Ayuk's got to play great, and I think that he's been anticipating this challenge for he could probably tell you exactly how many days. So that's what it is. I think I said we win the game. I said 28-20. So that's my expectation. And expect a hell of a matchup, man. You know, it's a Super Bowl rematch. See you in February. It's gonna be this again in February. I mean, I'm not worried about a Baker Mayfield, fucking Jared Goff. Like Karen, shut the fuck up. Like, come on, man. Like, I'm not worried about none of them bum ass boys. And Aiden Hutchinson is all that the fucking Lions had. I'm good. It's another one. This is a DJ Khaled album, bro. It's the same shit on
I wanted to see how far we'd get into the pod before we got that. I'm not worried about the rest of that NFC no matter what.
They gotta stop it, bro. Like, come on. These dudes stink. Not Minnesota. Come on. Stop it, man. Cut it out.
I don't blame you one bit. I do think, the AFC has more talent, but it's normal when you got aliens like Lamar Jackson running.
You think? You think they have more talent?
It's difficult, man. It's just what it is.
You seen Jalen Hurts on a football field without AJ Brown? That boy wouldn't be playing for Blake Community College. What the fuck?
Hey, well, at least their coach can talk ish on the sideline after beating the Browns by 4 points.
I'm for that. I'm all for that.
I know you're for it.
If I beat you by one, I'm going to talk the most shit. I don't give a fuck. Like,
at least do something, please.
He was talking all that shit. What's up? I'm one of them. I'm one of them guys. I don't give a fuck who it is. What? 10-year-olds at Madden? All the smoke.
I'm just saying, he was talking smack to his own fans. His fans won too, and they did the same amount of work to get the win as he did. That's my only problem with it.
Shouldn't have been talking shit. I remember you. Remember we made eye contact? You said something to me. What's up now? Yeah, what? Don't get over it. I bet you the players were in the locker room like that. Was pretty funny. I bet
that
you.
Was
we're like talking about it like it's negative. I bet you his players were like, "Yo, you see Nick tripping on them? That shit was funny as hell." But people in the media and the TV are like, "Oh my god, he's yelling at the fans." Taylor Hurts like, "Yo, did you see him doing that? That shit is great." Everybody else is, "Oh my god, he can't be yelling at fans." Oh my god.
Hilarious. More NFL storylines to come. This is going to be a great Sunday of football. We got a lot of great matchups. Obviously, we didn't get to the Vikings-Lions. We'll get into that as we start Sunday morning. I want everybody to make sure you're tapped into playback.tv/Sosa. Yes, Sunday morning, we will be going live there for that Monday game. A lot of money was made live betting during that game Sunday morning last week. Obviously, Jaguars are back versus the Patriots this week, which is, you got to love that London matchup as well. But we'll be running down, obviously, the marquee matchups for the entirety of the Sunday slate over there at Playback as well. Make sure you follow Sunday Quarterbacks. Always great questions coming up, and make sure you interact with the page, of course. Follow Sosa Picks. Again, going to be hitting you guys with his plays before them games start as well. Come back to Wednesday TV next week, of course, for our Week 8 edition of Max Marquee Matchup. I am DMac 316 on Twitter. Oh, almost messed it up there. We're going to get there on X as well. Make sure you guys check it out. See you guys. Peace out. There it is, right on time.